Well, good morning, everybody. So, now we begin this series of lecture on the chapter Using Land Wisely by L.Dudley Stamp. So, first of all, we discuss the brief biography of L.Dudley Stamp. L.Dudley Stamp, his full name was Sir Lawrence Dudley Stamp. He was born on 19th of March 18th, 1988 in Catford, London. His father was a shopkeeper. He was the seventh child of his parents. He completed his education at King's College, London. He specialized in his study of geology and geography. Stamp spent the early 1920s as a petroleum geologist in then British Empire colony in Burma. He got married a girl named Elsa. After that, he became professor of geology and geography in the New University of Rangoon in 1923. In 1926, he returned to the UK and selected as the reader in economic geography at the London School of Economics. He also acted as a government advisor as vice chairman of the Scott Committee on Land Utilization in Rural Areas. 1942 as chief advisor on rural and land utilization in the Ministry of Agriculture 1942 to 1955. And he developed the idea of land classification, which was officially adopted for planning purpose and was a member of the Royal Commission on Common Land. He retired in 1958. He also one of the international best known British geographer of the 20th century. From 1936 to 1944, he directed the compilation and publication of the report of the Land Utilization Survey of Britain. He worked on many official inquiries in the use of land and planning. Sir Stamp served in the British Army during the World War I in the France and Belgium from 1917 to 1919. Whilst away, his research paper on the survey on Clun forest was read on his behalf to the Geological Society of London. Stamp's wife Elsa died in 1962, and in 1964 he chaired the organizing committee of the 20th International Geographical Union Congress in London. A keen philatelist, he successfully argued for a set of commemorative stamp. In 1965, he chaired the National Resources Advisory Committee of the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources. Sir Stamp died of heart failure in 1966 at a conference in Mexico City. He is reputed to have just completed a quest to visit every country in the world. He was buried in Bud. Thus, he has achieved fame as a geographer, writer, and university professor. Now, we will discuss the brief summary of Using Land Wisely. A considerable amount of the work on land use has been done at various levels in the world, but the number of studies devoted particularly to land classifications are not substantial. A brief survey of the earlier studies has been attempted in this chapter, which can be split into three parts. Part 1 deals with the studies concerning land classification based on global studies. The second part examines the contributions and trends in research on land potentials, especially soil as a major evaluation factors in India. The third part surveys the studies on land classification in reaction to northeast region of India. Now, prior to the Second World War, in the Great Britain under the guidance of Sir Dudley Stamp, the land utilization survey was conducted and a simple classification of land was arrived at. This classification was used as a basis of delimitation of the tracts of good agricultural land which could be avoided during the development project. The use of land and all its sources wisely is great challenges which the whole world is facing. One of the greatest world problems which we are faced with the increasing pressure of population on land and the land resources. The most worrying thing is not the actual population but its rate of increase. The world population is increasing so rapidly that the actual increase after calculating the number of births and deaths is about 1.6% per annum. 40 to 55 million children are added every year in England and Wales. To the whole world, about 1,20,000 babies are added every day. The babies are born so quickly that we cannot speak quickly enough to keep pace with the birth rate. 3 babies are born every second somewhere in the world. The main cause of this uncontrolled growth is the increase in the life status and advanced medical facilities. The enormous increase in population will create immense problems. It is really due to the spread of knowledge and the practice of death control. Death control recognizes the work of doctors and nurses and hospitals. A proper medical care helps to keep people alive longer. The medical examinations of children at a school catch their diseases early. If a person is ill, there is an ambulance to take him to a model hospital. Now 80 or 90-year age is recognized as a normal age for human beings. Since fewer children are dying and people are living longer, the population of the world is shooting up. The unequal distribution of the fertile land is another problem. As some of the countries cultivate and grow more than the need, whereas some other are deprived of this facility. To come over this problem, see cultivation and improvement in the grain plants in necessary. Agriculture is driven by the demand for food. This demand is growing because of the rising population and more demand for meat, which requires more land than crops. Urbanization is backed by the economic power of manufacturing and the influx of economic migrant from the countryside to towns and cities. If the earth on which we live is divided among us, each person would come to have just over 12 acres. 1/5 of it can be cut out as being too cold because this land is covered with the snow and ice. For example, Greenland, Antarctica and the frozen areas of the northern Canada. Another 1/5 can be cut out as being too elevated, too much above the sea level. Then another tenth can be cut out as being rocky at the surface. Now out of 12 acres, only 4 acres are left suitable for the food production. But the whole of the 4 acres of the land is not usable. Out of this, some land which has too much rainfall or is too much hot, which cannot be used for production. Only a little over 1 acre is left for the support of one human being. So this is the main cause. So briefly, after observing deeply, we find that the prospect of producing more food are indeed so promising and so diverse that widespread recognition of them may lead to complacency. Agriculture is a complex productive system, and increasing agricultural production is actually a problem in system analysis. Advocates of each of the separate areas where sizable gains can be made will be tempted to believe that his diagnosis of the problem and his prescription for overcoming it should have top priority. This is mistaken strategy. A wide range of interacting institutional, social and economic conditions must be simultaneously satisfied if production increases are to be optimized. Progress must be made simultaneously on all relevant fronts. Fertilizer cannot solve all our problems, neither can land reforms, nor birth control, nor substitution of plant protein for animal protein in our diet. All can help, and progress in one area is likely to reinforce progress in other areas. If we have the technology and resources to make the kind of progress we need, we must alter the impending institution so that it can occur. This is where our real challenges lies. Now, a brief discussion about the writer's advice for using land wisely. The land that we use, the survey initiated by the Sir Dudley Stamp in Britain in 1950. This concept and plan of world land use survey was brought forward by Valkenburg. He proposed the world land use at the International Geographical Congress at Lisbon in April 1949. It was proposed that the land use may be undertaken on a uniform scale of 1 crore and each map sheet be accompanied by an explanation text. In 1953, under the chairmanship of Van Valkenburg, at the International Geographical Congress proposed to carry out land use survey in many parts of the world. When Valkenburg was in charge of American and L.D. Stamp, Lawrence Dudley Stamp was placed as in charge of countries of Eastern Hampshire. This objective survey was to record the existing land use in all parts of the world on uniform systems of classification and notation with such amplification as may be necessary locally, and to punish the results, including the proposed land classification by the World Land Use Survey Commission. We can follow these instructions as the horticulture includes the intensive cultivation of vegetables and small fruits. Second, settlement and associated non-agricultural land. Third, trees and perennial crops. Fourth, cropland. Cropland is divided into two parts: continual and rotation cropping, and second, land rotation. Fifth, improved permanent pasture. Sixth, unimproved grazing land. Seventh, woodland. And eighth, swamps and marshes. Other comparable land use survey have been carried out in Britain, United States of America, Canada, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Japan, Iraq, Burma, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, Cyprus, Poland, China and Bangladesh, Nigeria and many other European countries. So these all reflects to some extent the ecological condition under which the crops are grown, but the past and present economic conditions of area have equally had their impact on present land use. A special kind of survey is the soil use survey, in which the quality of crops grown is compared statistically with the types of soil is in a given area. Crops disease survey, in which the particular crops are investigated in terms of geographical distribution of diseases, and crop damage are of the major interest today. In other cases, one particular crop is surveyed to obtain an inventory of its present or future production under the existing management conditions. Field pattern surveys and land allotment surveys are concerned with different aspects of land use, in particularly regarding the size and shape of field on which the crops are grown. So, as Sir Lawrence Dudley Stamp advises to all the person of the world for using land wisely, so these particular line of Aldo Leopold are very suitable for here. We abuse land because we regard it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. Meaning, if we think about the world's population, if we think about the nature, if we think about the biggest problem of this particular world, then we can think about to save the nature, about to save the land. So we should follow the proper instructions of Sir Stamp and these beautiful lines by Aldo Leopold. Thank you.